Are we we're recording this, right? We're doing the real thing.
Yeah. Help me. I look like I'm 5'1" with a big head. This is an oversized chair. Welcome to TomTalks, Paul. Are you
Tom,
excited to be here? Where we are guaranteed to talk about something.
Tom, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm pretty excited to be here.
I love the energy that I was just chatting with you about. You're bringing something. You're bringing some kind of fire. Is it fire or is it ice? Or is it something new? Fire and ice.
It's blue steel is what I'm
Blue
bringing.
steel. You love blue. Paul, thanks for coming on. Let's talk about the company of dads, obviously. But for me, I want to start, this is super relevant for myself, but as a dad of two young children, I've encountered a lot of challenges and joys to fatherhood, unique to me in my time. I have a 3-year-old and I have a 3-month-old. So from your end, what are some of the personal experiences and moments you've had as a dad that fueled why you're here with the company of dads, and why you've established it?
Well, like I said, if people who are always accepted, people for whom, life cruises along pretty easily, they're not going to disrupt things. They're not going to be change makers because it's what they wanted. And for me, I was thrilled to be a dad. I've got 3 daughters who are now 6, 11, and 14. But it wasn't, we live in a town. It's a lovely town in Southern Connecticut, but most of the caregiving is done by moms or paid caregivers. And that just wasn't how it worked for us. And so my wife had a job with almost no flexibility. She works in asset management. And I had a job where I could, carve out a little bit more time for kid stuff and planning.
Right.
I was a columnist at the New York Times, and I'm not saying I owned all my time, but maybe I could plan out 85% of it.
Yeah.
And when she started her own firm, I took on this role of being what I call a lead dad. And a lead dad is a man who's a go-to parent, whether he works full-time, part-time, or devotes all of his time to his kids. But I didn't really wave the flag. I didn't get on the train, a couple of days a week saying, Paul Sullivan, lead dad.
Well, how many lead dads are there?
Well, right now in America, I found this out during COVID when I did some research. There are 25 million men in the United States who are lead dads or could be lead dads.
Wow.
To put that into context, that's a third of all fathers in the United States. And it's a group that still gets called Mr. Mom, still gets called the house husband. People still say, are you retired? What you are is, you're picking up the slack. You're doing your part at home, but you're also being an advocate for women at work.
Yeah. And my wife is a lead mom. And she is phenomenal. I mean, it's beyond the full-time job too, but then it's intentional energy, emotion, like TLC, you can feel when someone's a lead anything too. It's something that just kind of, I think it's really important just to have that in your life.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Tom, it came from the positive side. I want to set a good example for my 3 daughters. So
yeah.
If they want to be a lead mom when they grow up, awesome. If they marry a guy who's a lead dad, awesome. But it also came from a negative side. And that was, I'd seen all the discrimination my wife faced on Wall Street. I know, shock. People are like, what? Women on Wall Street aren't treated equally. But, when she went to leave the firm she was with to start her own firm, the managing partner of that old firm said, geez, I'm kind of surprised. And she said, why? I said, well, I thought I had at least one more kid in you before you left. And shit like that people get away with, and it's it has to stop. So I was really sort of, I had this moment, of course, like many things, it kind of coalesced during COVID.
Yeah, it was a catalyst.
Yeah,
no, that's awesome. I'm inspired by it because I'm trying not to be biased because I'm a dad, but I love a company of dads. It's cool. I was like, I'm interested. No, okay, so I think if we're looking at challenges and solutions as a topic, there's a growing awareness of mothers facing challenges in the workplace, and lead dads have their own unique set of challenges that I think are going, would you say, unnoticed, not discussed? Anything that you want to shed light on, and how company dads actively working to really address that as a void, an area, an opportunity, if you will. Any other buzzword? But yeah, I hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, look, there's great research. One of our early podcasts was with a professor named Jamie Ladge at Northeastern, who'd done all sorts of research showing that, pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, men who put their hands up to be a lead dad, and not just what we call an event dad. An event dad is a guy who goes to the soccer game, goes to the kindergarten graduation. Yeah. They were penalized at work. They were seen as being insufficiently committed to their jobs. Now, any working mom listening to this will say, cry me a river. Let me tell you about all the discrimination we face. And I 100% agree with that. But COVID was this moment where, guys in their 60s and 70s may be beyond hope. I fall in the demographic of fathers in their 40s and 50s who, being forced to work from home, being in the house, trying to be productive all the time. It was a reset for many of us.
Yeah.
But guess what? Guys in their 20s and 30s are the ones leading the charge. What can companies do? Who's been reaching out to me the most at the company dads? It's been groups of working moms. It's been the savviest companies, not one or two in their group, but 4, 5, 6 in whatever they're doing, who's saying, we have these parenting groups. We need to have more dads involved in here. We need to energize dads. And it's an obvious thing why. It's better for the men at work. Okay, great. But two, it's really important for working moms because now the burden of caregiving, of parenting isn't just assumed to fall to women. It's not a gender issue. And then ultimately, it's good for the companies and the managers because they see just how productive their working parents are
Yeah.
and how a couple small changes here and there makes a huge difference down the road when it comes to energizing that workforce.
I love, no, thanks for sharing. This is great. And if I may keep going, like, so how do we, the path to normalization, right? So how do we do it? Like, what are some of the, like, what are you guys doing, from a uniqueness, modernization, communication standpoint? And today, what do you want to, what do you see over the next 5 years, even, of what you guys will be doing to adding value to the conversation? And just, I think that's step one, too.
We do 3 things, and to keep the math simple, those 3 things fall into 2 groups. And the first 2 are media and community, and that's group 1. And what's that doing? That's normalizing the term lead dad. It's normalizing the role of men stepping up at home and being allies of working moms in the office or the virtual office. The second part, and I always say that's the tip of the iceberg. The part of the iceberg that hopefully ships the sink of the ship of mediocrity is the workplace education component. And what we're doing with companies right now, it's taking the form, the past 12 months is taking the form mostly of keynote talks, which are fine, but they're not scalable. But we're now working with a company to create micro content, 2-minute pieces that will be delivered via SMS, Microsoft Teams, and Slack to get the message out to the employees that want to be out. But really what it's about is calling people in and not calling people out, showing these companies that it's much better when you have the lead dads involved. And guess what? They're being welcomed by working moms because they see this allyship as eventually, moving forward.
It's a super powerful, like, symbiosis, right?
100%.
Like I like when I work hand in hand with my wife too, just from like a small moment standpoint, it's amazing. But from a community standpoint, there's a sense of, I mean, I don't know, before we even were introduced, rather, there's a sense of loneliness a little bit, if you are a lead dad. When I'm just learning about the nomenclature myself too, but like, is that something you've seen? Like, is there like, you see lead dads want a community like this too, like from a, like, that there's a sense of, I mean, just the psychological community side of it too, and like what it provides from a space and value. But feel free to.
I mean, I've seen this since day one. Like when I left the New York Times in October of 21, the paper was kind enough to ask me to write a final column that wasn't so much reflecting on what it was like, but looking ahead and like, this is why I'm leaving. And as soon as that column ran, I was getting emails from all these men who were saying, I'm a lead dad. I never used that term before. I didn't know what it meant, but I want to be part of this community. Likewise, I was getting, emails from working moms who are either saying, hey, I've got a lead dad, or you ever think of developing a course called Lead Dad Boot Camp? And I'm like, I love the term of that. Let's shape people up. But I mean, it's a net positive because, our ultimate goal is to help families fulfill their full potential. And we want to partner with companies. We're not here to say, your policies around X number of days in the office are good or bad.
Right.
We're partnering them and say, like, why do you have those policies? What do you want to achieve with those policies? What is the ultimate outcome you want to derive from your workforce? And oftentimes, Tom, we couch it in the language of care. Like one of the most popular things we've advocated for is something called care days. And care days are essentially an extra bucket of time that a company can give its employees. Not a sick day, not a personal day, not a bereavement day, sure as hell not a vacation day. It's for a care emergency. Now, are a lot of those care days going to be used by working parents? Yeah, 100%. But guess what? Everybody is or will be a caregiver at some point. You have a sick brother, an aging parent, a partner or spouse who's ill. I'm a huge dog person. We lost a Labrador a couple of years ago. I wasn't working that day. It was too traumatic. And those care days help everybody. And as we say, it's a light offering by companies that lifts a heavy burden off of employees.
So what does that policy look like? Like I'm so intrigued by it. Like what?
Yeah, it's a simple policy. You put it in like a care wallet, you put it in a care
Yeah.
bucket, and you add, whatever the company thinks,
Yeah.
5 to 10 days.
Yeah.
And the
I love
funny
it.
part is,
Makes
I
you not
got,
feel guilty about taking them too. Like
but it
you're
also
not
lets
like,
you, it lets you be honest. And one of the
yes,
great pieces
yeah.
of feedback we
I have a
got was,
conflict, you know.
no, but you're not saying
I
like
need
when
I
kids
need to
get
use a
old
career.
enough,
Yeah.
to listen to what their parents are saying. We've had this one woman wrote in and said, "This is remarkable. My mom was a high school
When is that
principal.
age, by the way? I would like to know that because I only have a 3-year-old right now. When
They're watching, and that's a
when are
whole
they
other
listening? When are they
conversation about."
listening? When are they do?
That's right. They're always listening,
No,
but
I know.
it's always more important
Yeah.
that you show and don't tell.
Yeah.
But what this woman said was like it used to gut her inside, and she couldn't understand why her mother would call up and take a sick day when she, the daughter, was the one who's sick. And it sets up this precedent of lying, of telling little white lies again and again. The care day allows for honesty. Now, have we
Yeah.
gotten pushback on this? Yeah, I had one guy at a company say, "Look, people are going to abuse this, man. If I give them any more time off, they're just going to take it all."
Yeah, but then you can
all
just
of
say,
it.
what about the unlimited policies? Like, so it's really just more intentionality behind
It's
honesty.
intentionality
Yeah,
because
like you're saying. I
you
didn't even think about the dishonest side because you're right. Any things that come up or like it's a little bit like there's something that came up today, but like make using a care day, kind of like where that falls in a bucket.
you know where it falls. And,
Yeah.
does any great leader manage for the bottom 30% of his organization? No, you manage for the top 20 to 25% of your organization. Those high performers are not going to abuse care days. They're going to see it as a benefit, and it's going to engender loyalty. It's going to make them happier about the company. And they may take one in a year,
Yeah.
two
Right.
in a year,
Yeah.
but they'll take it because they actually need them.
It's I think that's an awesome perk too. Over the next 5 years, 10 years, what do you see over like, okay, so it's 5 to 10 years out. How is this, what anticipated pushback from you know, what kind of pushback are you seeing right now, actually, if that you're willing to discuss even?
I'll tell all of it.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing pushback so much as ignorance. And I draw a parallel between companies that offered mental health benefits 15,
Yeah.
20 years ago. They're at the forefront of this. Now,
Mm.
nobody would work for a company that didn't offer mental health benefits. And nobody would
Yeah.
work for a company that said, you know what?
Par for
I'm
the
really
course,
sorry.
par for the
Yeah,
course, right?
I'm really sorry you have some depression right now. Would you break your leg? Because if you would break your leg, we could cover that, but depression, we can't cover it. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And so this is where we're at the forefront of something that is evolving, and it's not being pushed by fathers like me in our 40s and 50s. It's being pushed by men and women in their 20s and 30s who want to work differently. So there's not pushback. I mean, companies like Goldman
Yeah.
Sachs and JP Morgan are really late to this, but there's have so much stinking money that once they realize that they're wrong, they'll be able to reverse engineer it. Again, I'm not managing toward them. I'm managing to the companies that see the benefits here and see why that this is good for all employees, not
Yeah.
just
So
the men
I
or
think
the
you're right.
dads.
There's definitely recognition of like, I think it's a great time for the company of dads, just from a conversational standpoint. But from your perspective, what are 3 actionable strategies that companies, small or enterprise, like can take immediately to be more accommodating and supporting to fathers as primary caregivers,
Yeah.
or as
So
lead dads rather?
it's lead dads. Yeah. And number one is to acknowledge that this benefit, any benefit toward lead dads, helps the entire workforce. We talked to a large insurance company and they didn't get it. They thought that this is only that they needed to devote more money to women and their women's programs. I said, talk to any working mom and they'll tell you that this is a benefit for them. 2, be more open and vocal about inviting everybody in to the caregiving groups. I talked to one company and they said, oh yeah, we got this great program for people when they return from parental leave. And then we also have another program for when their parents are sick and aging. They need time. I said, that's great. You've got birth
Yeah.
and death covered. But what about everything in between? If we know one thing as parents, it's not like once your parental leave ends, it's not like it becomes easy. You
Right.
need to have, and that's where care days come in. Because care days help if your 14-year-old, I have a 14-year-old, if your 14-year-old is having a crappy day, somebody's really being mean to her, and you need to take 3 hours and
Yeah.
go get an ice cream with her, and then you're going to get back to work. You're going to get
Yeah.
back to work.
And then your quality of life, like just I agree.
100% better.
Yeah.
And then the third thing we talk about, and this is something that I get pushback on until I explain it, and that is allowing people to opt for a care shift. And what a care shift is to agree to a period of time in which you will be working pretty much no matter what. And that's often for companies 9:30 to 3:30. So you'll get stuff done in the morning. You'll have this block of time. Now, you're not just working a 6-hour day. You're going to do stuff in the morning before your kids go off to school or any caregiving starts, and you're going to do things in the evening to wrap up. And the pushback I get is, well, how do we do this? Who's going to do this? As one, a lot of blue collar workers, most blue collar workers are working at a shift. Companies
Yep.
know how to work a shift. Two, big companies have offices all over the world. They figured out how to work asynchronously. And three, if you want an example of a company that's doing this, one big one is Dimensional Fund Advisors. Dimensional Fund Advisors was started by a guy named David Booth. The University of Chicago Business School is named after David Booth. You don't get a business school named after you unless you donate a ton of money. It's not because you're a nice person. It's not because you have a good smile. It's not because you go to all the University of Chicago football games, which would be ridiculous because it's a horrible football program. And I say this as an alum. You get it because you've been wildly successful and you donate money. And DFA, Dimensional Fund Advisors, is set up as a ultra for-profit company. But David Booth introduced a version of this where every employee in all of his offices has to work the equivalent in their time zone of 10 to 3. And then they can fill out the rest of the time. So this isn't some like soft, squishy thing that you do if you're a sweet nonprofit. This is an ultra for-profit business realizing that adapting to the post-COVID world is good for his employees. And if it's good for his employees, it's good for the company and their shareholders.
Yeah, no, super logical. What about, so what message do you have for companies that are a little bit more reluctant, like in like shifting these strategies, like to be more inclusive to what's required?
I mean, the flip answer is look out.
I mean, you'll see it, you'll feel it.
You'll see it and you'll feel it. Like, I talk about
like
Goldman
we don't
Sachs.
want that to happen. Like it's like that's always the bad ending. It's like, how do we just like, hey guys, just like now is the right time to invest in a new program. That's
I mean, look at the people who are leaving. When you see the people who are leaving top companies, I mean, Goldman Sachs is shedding managing directors off. Many of them are senior female executives. Many of them have been earning millions and millions of dollars, which means they're wildly productive and contributing to what Goldman Sachs is trying to achieve. And they're going. And guess who's not going to go? The bottom 25%, because they don't have any other options. So this isn't a program that is allowing companies to be nice. This isn't a program that's allowing companies to be generous. This is a program that's going to help companies become more resilient going forward. And, certain another company, JP Morgan, wants all of its managing directors in the office 5 days a week. Those people weren't in the office 5 days a week pre-COVID. If they were in the office 5 days a week, what were they doing? They should have been out meeting with clients. They should have been drumming up business. And so these antiquated ways of looking are going to make companies less resilient and susceptible to challengers. Who are the companies that are most receptive? I was talking to a financial services firm, based in Oklahoma. They love this idea. Now, they love it for very self-interested, pro-growth reasons that if they start to lose their up-and-coming leaders, they're not going to get them back. Like Oklahoma is a great place, but like very few young kids dream of one day moving to Oklahoma. You dream, I'm going to make it big. I'm going to go to New York City. I'm going to go to DC. I'm going to go to San Francisco.
I'm going to Oklahoma. This is a reason to go to Oklahoma. Yeah. No, you're right.
You get a night.
Got to get competitive, especially today.
It's our house for sure in Oklahoma.
That's good.
Yeah, but that's they're savvy and they're thinking like, okay, we need to incentivize these people to stay. We don't want them to be lured away. And again, these are small changes that have an outside impact on the bottom line.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm biased. It's like it feels like an endorsement, but as a dad, I didn't know this existed. It's like, wow. I was like, it resonates with me, and I know I'm like right in your target strike zone too. But it's good. No, I appreciate it. Yeah. What final words do you have, Paul?
I mean, just ask. I mean, this is the advertorial part. Just have people check out, the Company Dads, companydads.com. We do all sort of things to make people feel included, but we also do a whole bunch of things to show the benefits of what this program is. And again, it's called the Company Dads because it's a zippy, catchy name, but this is for working moms. This is for all families. And really, it's helping companies, get with the program. As I say, like, was this needed in 2019? 100%.
Yeah.
Would I have left my great job at the New York Times then? Never. I mean, this is a good idea at a great time that's meant to help families and companies fulfill their full potential.
I'm here for it. Paul, thanks for coming on TomTalks. I hope you enjoyed chatting for 20 minutes. Fastest podcast ever.
I loved it. It was fast paced. You didn't let me, drone on too much. It was fantastic.
Yeah, you didn't let me either. No, I hope you don't mind. Like, I am biased. I am the person that loves this, And how can I help you more? Like, how can I get involved?
just keep me in mind. Like,
Yeah.
let me live in the back of your brain. And when you're having
That's what
conversations
we all
with
do.
different people, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
And
hey,
me, yeah,
you know this
yeah.
guy, Paul? Yeah.
Of course, Paul. All right, man. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tom.
All
You
right,
too.
take care.
I really
See ya.
appreciate this.
Hey, LinkedIn, this is Tom Papamoronis. Thanks for stopping by. If you like AI, leadership, innovation content, join over 44,000 already subscribed to Tom Talks. Great name. Below, I promise it's fun, exciting, informative, great guests, but most importantly, it's magical. Not really.